Hey everybody, welcome to this week of Pre-IPO Stock Podcast. With me, I got Nick Fusco, CEO of ApeVue, a pre-IPO secondary market pricing company, and Clint Sorenson, Chief Investment Officer at WealthShield, an outsourced CIO and investment research company. All right, so the thing that everybody has been talking about this past weekend, we're doing this on Monday, right, is OpenAI, right? So big news from OpenAI. The board of directors this past Friday fired Sam Altman, who was their CEO. Greg Brockman, who was the president, and a handful of other employees also resigned kind of in protest. This whole weekend, OpenAI's investors were trying to bring Altman back and Brockman back and these other employees. But late yesterday, OpenAI's board announced that Emmett Shear is the interim CEO. So Shear used to be the CEO of Twitch, and which is now an Amazon company, and he just resigned last year. So he's been sitting on the bench. So he's going to come in now, be interim CEO. And also Microsoft announced this morning that Altman, Brockman, and several of these quote unquote colleagues will be joining Microsoft to run a new AI research business. So that's kind of the short and sweet, like exact facts that have come out over the last 3 days. But I wanted to open up to you guys, like, what are your thoughts on OpenAI and kind of some of the changes that are making, and perhaps what do you think about the opportunities for the company going forward?
Damn. I mean, I'll jump in. This is pretty common, right? We see founders getting canned by boards. I mean, think back through any startup company. I mean, you name the big company, it happens more than it doesn't, right? The founder, Steve Jobs, you think about the founder of Uber, Travis. I mean, look, this is a story that keeps repeating itself throughout our space. However, the way it was done was quite different. And then from a PR perspective, this has just been a governance nightmare, especially when you're talking about a company as pivotal and as important as OpenAI is. I mean, we were talking offline, guys. I don't know if you use this tool. The data analysis tool, the training it now, like from the developer side, where you don't even need development skills. You can develop the AI to do certain things that you want it to do. It is incredible how fast it continues to develop and grow. And so this is a really important company, and to have this happen over the weekend and then all the backtracking and noise is it's disheartening for someone that's passionate about the company and what they're doing, right? So it'll be interesting how they clean this up. They got cleanup on all four, that's for sure.
They definitely, you're right. They definitely have some cleanup. Nick, what do you think? What do you think of all this?
Yeah, I think by the time we're done talking and we publish this a few hours later or a day later, it's old news.
Yeah, you're right.
But that is literally how fast everything seems to be happening. And I like the reflection back to like a Steve Jobs. You know, he was at the helm, and then he was gone, and then he was brought back quite a while later. And then more recently, you have kind of like Ryan Peterson over at Flexport. He was gone, and hey, very quickly he was kind of back. And this one, he's gone, and they were like, oh no, let's bring him back. Like all within what seemed to be a 36-hour period. You know, so it's almost reflective of the technology itself. As Clint was saying, you can get substantially more work done. Everyone is expecting everything in pretty much damn near real time here. And it's almost no different with the corporate governance. So very, very excited to see what was actually occurring behind the scenes, which I don't think anyone has a very clear pulse on. I think we've heard some rumors out there to guess at what could have been happening, but it has to have been rather substantial for that to occur and create this whole PR quasi nightmare. Or maybe it was I don't think this is a stunt type of activity. You know, it's not that level. But no, I think no matter what, you're kind of setting yourself up for the next phase of huge success in the AI world, whether it's under the dominance of Microsoft or with many players leading the charge here. OpenAI, not sure exactly what's occurring with the tender and things like that. But I think this stuff kind of does have a spook effect to the investors, and it's interesting to watch it play out within the private market as opposed to the public. So
Yeah, sure.
we're looking at it from the performance angle at ApeVue, and over the course of the next week are going to be able to benchmark their activity at OpenAI versus the activity at Microsoft, and that's
Sure.
a nice cool play of what's the correlation between one of the biggest backers of the company and technology versus the underlying technology itself. We're seeing more of those dynamics at play between public and private markets. So yeah, we're all over this. We're actually enjoying some of the volatility from a news or research perspective.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens when the dust settles, right? And Clint, like you mentioned, we were talking about this before we started. I mean, no doubt we'll probably talk about this next week and probably the week after as well, right? But like when the dust settles, I think you guys are right. This is a special company with like a really special product that seems to be light years ahead of everywhere else. So I have to imagine some incredible people will still want to come and work at OpenAI and kind of realize the vision of what this could be. So it's going to be interesting to see, like after a few deep breaths, this happening on a Friday right over the weekend probably just sent everything into exponential tailspin, where if it happened on like a Tuesday, it might not have been this way, but it'd be interesting to see, let it eat through this week and kind of come back and revisit it next week and kind of see where things are at. But
it's crazy to watch it play out on X too, right? Like it's playing out in front of our eyes on X. Like I'm over here looking at Sam Altman's tweet they just did 43 minutes ago, and he says, "My top priority remains to ensure OpenAI continues to thrive. We are committed to fully providing continuity of operations to our partners and customers. The OpenAI Microsoft partnership makes this very doable." So, he's saying the right things, but what's it going to look like?
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. I think you got to wait till the dust settles. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's because, like in 2 weeks' time or a week's time, this will probably be flushed through, and then it's either a big deal or it's not. You know what I mean? Or who knows? Maybe it's even better. I'm an optimist. It could even be better.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, right. But at any rate, I mean, come on, Microsoft's got $11 billion invested into that company, right? I mean, there's real money at play here. So I gotta imagine cooler heads will prevail, and the smart people are going to figure this out, right? It's just going to take a little bit of time. That's all. But okay, that's OpenAI. All right. Other big topic this weekend. This was a grand slam of a weekend, right? I mean, we had that. We had this next topic, SpaceX. The Cruise CEO resigned, and this guy Javier in Argentina won for president. It was like a crazy news weekend, right?
Mess. Crazy.
If you haven't watched
have you heard
videos,
some of that guy's have you heard that guy's snippets? Wow.
Oh my gosh. Like, I don't know. It doesn't matter what kind of political stuff you're into. You just got to listen to it because it's like he's got veins. He's like yelling at people. It's like he's very passionate about what he believes in. That's
and he was elected president, man. He's president. I know. Like, think about it.
I know. It's going to be interesting. So it was a wild weekend for
everybody watch snippets.
It's very entertaining, very entertaining. But okay, so SpaceX, so Starship is the new rocket for SpaceX, okay? And the reason that Starship is important is it's like 5x the payload and like a fraction of the cost to launch Starship into space. It's wild. So SpaceX already has a massive lead on everyone in delivering payload to space. Starship comes on board. It's just gonna like accelerate it. The moat just got even bigger, right? So look, we don't need to get into it. The Starship is like 40 stories tall. To put that, like, to lock that into your brain, that is a huge rocket, right? The thing is massive. But did you guys watch it? What did you think? It was a successful launch, right? They kind of did this hot stage separation, which I think was the primary goal. And they did that, right? They also didn't want to blow up the launch pad. They also did that. So both the two things that they were really focused on, they got done. But did you guys watch it? What did you think? Like what did you think, Nick? Did you watch the launch?
I not in real time, but I did watch it. And
okay.
I think that the sheer magnitude of the size, so clearly not all 40 stories are going to be useful for transport,
right?
But the cost reduction aspect, and I'm taking my nerd cap off about how exciting it is to watch things go into outer space or orbit or just explode just generally, right? But
right.
The cost reduction and the amount that a Starship could carry is just outrageous. And when you
Yes.
bring that back to the future of transport and kind of circumventing aspects of potential shipping and things like that, it's a huge advance in kind of the whole sector. You know, you're going to actually give shipping companies a run for their money in a certain amount of time, and for that purpose alone, I think it's outrageous. Like the size of that freaking rocket, plus how much it can carry, and the speed at which it can operate, or cost at which it can eventually operate, is just incredible. So this is, I think, a great benefit to humankind, as nerdy as that sounds. But for the transport industry, it's a massive shakeup, huge lead. For anyone that was kind of naysaying and saying, "Oh, it blew up," I think that's complete BS at this point. We're making great strides.
Yeah, Clint, what do you think, man?
And I think it just opens up a completely different economy, and it is opening up a completely different economy. Not necessarily space, but just, I mean, everything. Whether it's travel, whether it's, like you said, freight forwarding, freight moving of freight, whether it's waste management, right? Whatever it is, you start to think about all the different avenues of growth and platforms. And like we talked about in our last podcast, right? Multiple trillion-dollar companies could easily emerge from this platform business that is SpaceX. So they continue to do great things, continue to push boundaries. And I can't add any more to what Nick said about this particular incident, but I think it just, from a stepping backward and looking at the platform itself, I think this just continues to reiterate the strength of that platform.
Yeah.
And like OpenAI in the AI natural language processing field, there's no who's competing. There's zero competitors in this space. So, like you said, moat continues to get wider. I'm a SpaceX bull here.
Yeah, well, I will say this. I hadn't watched one of the launches like live. You know what I mean? You guys got to do it. There's something like, this is where Nick, I put like my little kid hat on, right? Where it's like, it's a rocket going into space. Like, that's cool. I watched it live, and like the anticipation and the buildup of like, is it going to go? Are they going to hold? Like the whole thing, and then it goes, and you're like seeing it, and it's just this huge rocket, and the plume of smoke. It's like what you guys said. It's like mankind. It's like mankind. It's like special. You feel like you're like watching history happen. It's incredible. It's really incredible. But I did think, Clint, I got to tell you, I was like, would I get on a rocket? Because I used to go to Beijing a lot, right? And that's a 13-hour flight. And I'm like, man, I bet that's like probably 30 minutes on the rocket. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
Would I go on the rocket? Would I go on the rocket to go to Beijing?
Well,
probably would.
I'd go on a rocket.
The interim step is just getting the Concorde back, right? I mean, that was the thing.
Right.
Late childhood for us, I guess that was really
Concorde was cool.
The epitome of class and speed. Very, very interesting. But I mean, we're just skipping over that.
Oh yeah.
Hop into a rocket
right to 30 minutes.
There.
Yeah, it's not fast. Yeah. It's a pretty special thing. But you guys got to do it. I'll make sure I'll let you know when they're. So Musk said he's already queuing up. Like another one's supposed to go up in 3 or 4 weeks time. Like they have 3 more already built, so they're like fitting it out. And then I think we're going to start to see a Starship go up like every 2 months until they start to land them. I mean, it's like really special. And Starlink's ramping up too, so they're going to have more cash than they're going to even know what to do with. That thing's going to start throwing off cash. So they're going to have plenty of capital to like build these rockets and give it a go. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Okay, last topic, which is AI related. Naturally, we can't get away from it. So Brex and Ramp both announced that they are launching AI solutions, right? So Brex and Ramp are both kind of in this like business payments, HR payments, type stuff. More like focused on business banking, if you will, and kind of HR services. So they both announced these AI solutions. Here's the thing. So like banking is like, that's like personal information, right? So it's one thing to come in and have AI do the first draft of your document or run some numbers for you or something, right? Where you can like maybe double check them before they go in. It's another thing to like turn this on for banking at your company where the AI is like spitting out information to people and then they're like taking that as Bible and then using it, right? So this is my question to you guys. I mean, you guys are business owners. Are you guys comfortable with the output of AI and just using that straight up at this point? Like no double check or no first draft, just like the AI just gave me a number and I'm like putting that into a database and using it as gold, or I'm presenting that to my customers, right? And they're going to now be using this data that's coming out of the AI. Like, are you guys there? Are you guys there yet?
Clint's nodding, so he can hammer on that one first.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. In terms of not double checking, that was the key thing. Would I double check the data and then use it? The answer is yes, right? I mean, there's got to be quality control. Eventually, quality control will be AI quality control. So then we're like, what are we doing here? But
there's an AI
but right
for
now,
that, yeah, right,
yeah. But right now, I think it's very important to exercise quality control because the models are so new. But I do
right.
that, and typically they're pretty accurate. Like I was giving you guys that data example I used earlier. I tested that and built that on my own too, and it was the exact same output. So,
Oh, that's cool.
and it did it 10x faster than I did it. So, if
Wow.
you think about what we're currently seeing, especially in like ChatGPT 4, I'm seeing pretty good stuff come out now. As far as this is concerned, right? Because they are doing the data analysis piece. That's why I mentioned that. So if you're considering that that's all this is how much did I saw the advertisement, how much did I spend on Uber last week or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think from that perspective, that data is just input, calculation, output. I think you're going to have a lot less in error with this type of AI than you would something more complex. But
sure.
So I would probably be faster to trust this than in something else that's a little more complicated. But like when we start talking about drawing inferences from data or predictions or drawing trends from that data, that's where I'm going to start to question the model. But I think very simple reporting back how much you spent at a certain place, right? I think that's going to, again, eventually this is going to replace those type of industries. Accounting, bookkeeping, gone. Financial advice, if you're just doing like a basic financial plan in Monte Carlo, gone. Basic asset allocation, those type of things, gone. When you start legal work, contract work that doesn't have nuances, very simple LLC formation, etc., gone. And then eventually, probably everything gets gobbled up by AI. But I think you can easily draw a clear-cut path to those things being trusted before others, but not at this point. Sorry for the long-winded answer, but
no,
a lot to unpack.
Good answer. Nick, what do you think?
Yeah. In some regards, I might hit it slightly different, less from a research, but more from we would be a data provider into research as input. So we have to make sure our quality is kind of paramount to everything else. So we can and are exercising some aspects of 4 eyes checking, turning into 2 eyes plus AI. So that for us works very, very well, particularly when you use the 2 eyes to check or 2 eyes to train, service into the AI, and then validate with another set of eyes. You can really amplify the speed at which you get things done with the same degree of quality, if not better. So that's pretty big. But I would kind of hop in here and just say how incestuous all of these things are related. When we're talking about X and or Twitter or Starlink, and then all the other aspects of SpaceX and Microsoft. So Satya Nadella is also a big investor into RIMP. So that's an interesting one. And when you're looking at it, the utilization of a ramp that can now exercise most of what's occurring through OpenAI, as opposed to maybe bringing some of that in-house. And I'm not as familiar with what Brex are operating on. I think there's going to be huge benefit of having that ability to outsource and use the best in breed, as we've all kind of become accustomed to or heard. Like, there's nothing that's going to beat out OpenAI right now, and this is what we need to embed ourselves with. So, like when you're using a ramp, you can operate within teams. Guess what? Another Microsoft component, and have all those aspects of asking it the interesting questions. how much does John spend on restaurants versus Mary, and who's taking more customers out and all that stuff, which I think is really exciting. But potentially it's also training certain models and everything related to what's occurring over at Microsoft. Really, really wild stuff. But I think their ability to really focus on what is core and most important on the credit side, rather as opposed to, let's say, the banking side, which is more for Brex, which wants to integrate your accounting, your banking, and your credit. That strategy is kind of paying off. We did some analysis of companies in the space, I think back in August, and we did Ramp, we looked at Brex, and then a couple publics, so Bill.com and Expensify.
Okay.
And at the time, I think Brex was 50% bigger. Bill was another double the size of Brex. And then Brex and Ramp were about the same. Now we're seeing Ramp outpace Brex, even though it's a newer player to market. They're priced up another $500 million since that time. And then Brex is down by about $1.5 billion. So even though Ramp was later to market, it seems as though the market, the secondary market, is receiving them better, and they've even priced around somewhat recently. So I would say that these guys are killing it. They're executing extremely well. They're very focused on what they're doing, and I kind of want to see if Brex is going to catch up. But But the founding story of Brex is also very interesting. XY Combinator started out creating a virtual reality type startup, and then realized it was a pain in the butt to get credit cards, and they were like, "Oh, we should do this," or something along those lines. But it was as profound as that. But I love seeing how quickly some of these unicorns are evolving.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this was like, there was a time where it's like every company is going to be a fintech company, right? That like everyone will integrate embedded finance or something, right? And now it's like I think every company is quickly becoming an AI company, right? And they're using OpenAI's, the Anthropics.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. But I'm like in your guys' camp. Like I'm not there yet where I'm like ready to turn on the AI to just operate. Like the true litmus test for me would be once they hook this thing up to a voice, which someone could probably do this today, and you're doing outbound sales calls, right, to like raise capital in a venture fund, and you're calling investors, and it's the AI is just talking for you using my voice.
Insider sales, that would be so good. Inside wholesalers, yeah.
You know what I mean? So
you're cool to do that when you're selling like $10 widgets. You're not cool to do that when you're raising $500,000.
But look, even if they could sell $10 widgets, Nick, like I would love to start a widget company and have the AI go out and sell for me. To sell $10 widgets, I'll do that all day long. That'd be great. That to me is so dynamic, right? And I can't even imagine, Nick, like in a business like yours, like you're in the data business. The data's got to be perfect, right? So like, how do you just rely on that? The thing with the banking though is there's something about access to like people's personal data. Like that, like the AI is monitoring your personal data, your personal banking data for your business or you individually. And there's like security stuff around that. Is it using it for other places in the data? Like some of that stuff is just, man, like
you don't think that's been done for the last 20 years? Like,
I mean, like I'm sure the bank has data. I'm sure it's at other places, but there's something about an AI. There's something about an AI where it's like getting pulled into the decision-making engine that it's, potentially going to get used in other places. It's still like, I know Databricks and other folks have solutions. Microsoft have solutions to like kind of segment that off and apply the model to just like a specific. So I get that there's like smart people that
you sound like a geriatric millennial. You sound like a geriatric millennial there.
I am, man. I'm the oldest millennial there is. So I'm firmly in the geriatric millennial segment. But, look, I think it's like what Clint said, though. It's the testing, right? Like, as you get used to it and it's happening more, it's more pervasive, right? And then it just becomes like a natural part of our lives. Just like, people doing apps on phones or mobile banking, like that was like, ooh, yikes. Like you're going to bank online. Like, is that not safe? Like now everybody banks online. It's like, it's a function of life. So,
right.
I think maybe the geriatric millennial in me just needs a bit of time to kind of get comfortable with it.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty comfortable with it. generally, because it's almost along the lines of the time efficiency that Clint expressed before. Because think about, you've had companies out there in the alt data space that have sold these data sets for ages.
Right.
You know, and we know somebody that started the firm called Antenna, which will effectively look at what credit card payments are for things like Netflix and Disney and things like that. So, you know, ahead of earnings calls, oh, you know what? You got X% increase or decrease in family spend for Netflix. You know, this is not absurdly clever, but it's getting clever to the point of, tell me the percent spend changes between John and Mary on this type of thing, or relative to when we hook it up to the revenue John or Mary are creating for the company, how much are they each spending relative to how much they're creating? And that I just think is clever. You know, that's where you have an analyst doing it, and now you kind of have this. You just have to dream up the right questions for it. So I don't think the dangers are terribly different, unless we just trust it wholeheartedly without validating it. But at some point, like, you're going to be at a tipping point where you're not even going to understand what's going into that thing to know why you got a certain output. And you better have a pretty cool data scientist to unlock it if they can.
Yeah,
but
it's like Wikipedia. You just trust it now. Yeah, you're just going to trust it. Remember?
I don't know about that.
Not to be cheeky, but remember Wikipedia came out, and I remember professors. I think I was in college. Like, you can't use Wikipedia as a source.
You can't use Wikipedia as a source.
You know?
Yeah.
But now, like, you know, half the stuff you Google, it comes up. It's from Wikipedia, right? So, like, you're like, oh, that's the answer. So,
well, and now I wonder if, funnily enough, X, Twitter, used to rely on Wikipedia quite substantially to validate who's a legitimate company or a person, like a notable person, and now they've gotten rid of that completely. They're just like, give us your $9, you know. So I wonder if Wikipedia's progress is actually slowing relative to that as well.
It could.
It's all interrelated, and so it's nuts. We got to get, I don't know, one of Elon Musk or Satya Nadella to sponsor this freaking podcast at one point. Because it all comes back to Google or Microsoft or whomever else.
Meta.
Every day.
It's the Magnificent Seven. Yeah. We're just a big bunch of Magnificent Seven supporters over here when it comes to
That's right.
Comes to our content.
We're trying to talk about Brex and Ramp here, but even they are invested in. So I think they do have a few other notable investors, of course. But interestingly, like, you know, when you search something and it pulls up on Quora instead of Wikipedia now, so Quora, I believe their CEO also invested in Ramp.
Yeah.
You know, so it's wild. Very, very, very interesting. But they also have, D1 and Code 2.
Right.
Notably within the backing of Ramp, along with the Founders Fund.
Right. Well, fellas, this was quite a weekend. I will say that. And I'm actually looking forward to hopefully a slower week with the holiday here. So at any rate, let's end it there. I know Clint, you guys scoot, right? But appreciate you guys' time this week. I hope you have a very nice Thanksgiving, right? And
happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Talking to you next week.
Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, fellas. Appreciate it. All right, bye.